For years, being a Spider-Man fan was a bit like being in a perpetual civil war. Every time a new actor would put on the spandex, the internet became a battleground of "not my Peter Parker." We had the Tobey fans, myself included, the Raimi heads, who viewed the original trilogy as sacred scripture. To us, if Spider-Man didn't have organic webbing and a certain dorky Silver Age earnestness, it was a failure. Then came the Andrew Garfield era, which split the room even further. People praised his quips and his chemistry with Gwen Stacy, but criticized the twilightification of the character and the messy, studio-driven plots. By the time Tom Holland swung into Civil War, the fandom was exhausted and deeply divided. The Spider-War wasn't just about the movies, it was about identity. It was about which version of Peter Parker matched the one in your head. For years, these three camps existed in total isolation, throwing rocks at each other from across the digital fence. But then something impossible happened. Spider-Man No Way Home didn't just make a lot of money, it acted as a diplomatic peace treaty. It took the three most contested versions of a single character and didn't just put them in a room, it made them a family. In doing so, it effectively ended the war of who is the best and replaced it with a collective realization: we are just lucky to have them at all. The most significant casualty of the pre-2021 Spider-War was undoubtedly Andrew Garfield. For years, he was the easy target because his franchise was cut short and The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was such a tonal disaster. Fans often conflated the quality of the films with the quality of his performance. He was the forgotten Spider-Man, the one stuck in the middle, who never got a proper trilogy or a heroic send-off. The war against the Amazing era was often brutal and fueled by the idea that his Peter was too cool or too moody. No Way Home changed that narrative in 20 minutes of screen time by bringing Andrew back and leaning into his status as the Peter who went dark. The MCU gave him the character arc his own movies never could finish. When he describes himself as lame compared to the other two, or talks about how he stopped pulling his punches, the audience didn't see a failed franchise. They saw a man struggling with immense grief. The moment he catches MJ as she falls from the Statue of Liberty is arguably the most important piece of redemption in superhero cinematic history. It wasn't just a stunt, it was a cosmic apology to a version of Peter Parker who had been carrying the weight of Gwen's death for 7 years. In that moment, the fandom war ended for Andrew. He wasn't the worst Spider-Man anymore. He was the one we all desperately wanted to hug. The MCU validated his entire existence, proving that his performance was always amazing. It was just waiting for the right script to prove it. While Andrew needed redemption, Tobey Maguire's version of the character was facing a different kind of war. The war against time and Iron Man Jr. Raimi fans often use Tobey as a weapon to bash Tom Holland's version, arguing that the modern MCU had disrespected the foundation Tobey built. The conflict was rooted in a sense of protective nostalgia. But when Tobey stepped through that portal in his civilian clothes, the energy shifted from competition to reverence. The MCU didn't bring Tobey back to show that he was better than Tom. They brought him back to be the elder statesman. He was the Peter Parker who actually figured it out. He was the one who had lived the life, kept the girl, and survived the villains. Seeing him stop Tom's Peter from impaling the Green Goblin with his own glider was a masterpiece of storytelling. It took the most famous moment from the 2002 film and flipped it, allowing the original Spider-Man to save the soul of the new Spider-Man. This destroyed the narrative that these versions were in competition. By making Tobey the moral compass of the film, the MCU told the Raimi fans, "We see the foundation he built, and it's still the strongest thing in this universe." It turned the best Spider-Man argument into a legacy conversation. You can't have the student without the master, and Tobey's presence cemented his status as the definitive mentor of the multiverse. One of the most effective ways No Way Home ended the fandom war was through the script's willingness to laugh at itself. The scaffolding scene, where the three Peters sit around and talk about their lives before the final battle, is essentially a meta discussion of 20 years of internet arguments. When Andrew and Tom are shocked that Tobey's webbing comes out of his body, it's a direct nod to the fans who argued about mechanical versus organic shooters. When they discuss the weirdest villains they've fought, it acknowledges the absurdity of the franchise's history. This scene served as a psychological cooldown for the fandom. By having the characters themselves joke about their distance, it signaled to the audience that it was okay to appreciate the quirks of each version. It moved the conversation away from which one is more realistic and toward, isn't it cool that we have all these variations affiliations, the banter transformed the clashing franchises into a singular, cohesive brotherhood. It turned a series of rival business products into a shared mythos. The chemistry between the three actors was so palpable that it made the very idea of ranking them feel reductive. How can you rank them when they clearly love each other? A major front in the Spider War was the frustration surrounding Tom Holland's reliance on Tony Stark. As we've discussed before, many fans felt he wasn't a real Spider-Man because he had too much help. No Way Home effectively ended this part of the war by using the other two Peters to fix Tom's trajectory. It took the combined wisdom of Tobey and Andrew to help Tom's Peter understand what great responsibility actually meant. The death of Aunt May, followed by the guidance of the other Spider-Men, stripped away the MCU-ness of Tom Holland's Peter. By the end of the film, when he is in his homemade suit in a lonely apartment, he has finally become the Spider-Man that Tobey and Andrew fans could respect. The movie acted as a bridge that brought the Iron Man Jr. crowd and the classic Spidey crowd to the same destination. It satisfied the MCU fans by giving them a massive crossover event, but it satisfied the hardcore comic fans by finally delivering the isolated, struggling Peter Parker they had been demanding since 2016. Ultimately, the Spider-War ended because No Way Home gave every faction what they wanted without taking anything away from the others. It didn't reboot the character, it expanded him. It taught us that Spider-Man isn't a single person, it's a set of values. Whether you prefer the Raimi era's operatic drama, the Webb era's romantic intensity, or the MCU's blockbuster scale, you were represented on that screen. The war was born from a fear of loss, fear that the version of Peter you loved would be replaced or forgotten. This movie proved that in a multiverse, nothing is ever truly lost. It turned 20 years of cinematic history into a giant 3-act play. Now when fans talk about Spider-Man, the conversation is less about who is the best and more about remember when they all pointed at each other. It turned the fandom from a battlefield into a community. We stopped fighting over who wore the mask better and started celebrating the fact that for a brief moment in time, the stars aligned to give us the ultimate version of the character, all of them. The war is over, the peace is holding, and the neighborhood has never felt bigger or more friendly. If you enjoyed this video, I have 2 other Spider-Man videos about why I think Tobey is the best Spider-Man we got so far, as well as a video on why Andrew's Spider-Man is underrated and how TASM 2 is one of the saddest romance movies in all of film history. I also got some videos on Homelander and Invincible, even some philosophy videos, but I love doing these deep dives on movies and characters, so if you like this kind of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on the grind to 1,000, and we're currently sitting at 175 at the time of recording this. So thank you guys so much for the support. I've only really been posting consistently for about a month, so it's really awesome seeing this kind of growth so early on, so I am not going to slow down anytime soon. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.